So actually keeping what we're doing going is not going to be simply putting one foot in front of the other. It's going to need you to be imaginative. Try things that are going to appeal that we've not perhaps tried before. And really think about human beings and, okay, what makes people want to join your team? Well, actually, it's the team stuff. So there's great stuff there. I know you've all got great imaginations, but let's use tomorrow morning as a really good opportunity to test Mr. B in some of this visionary stuff, because actually getting that right now, getting some of these bits of foundation in place now are going to be very important in 18 months' time. And of course, Nick will be on the stage here along with the officers of the association, so you can challenge us all. Anyway, moving on. Now that really relaxed bit, the bit where you can sit back and just let it wash over you, because it is the business. And we've got the RAF presentation team standing in the wings. Ladies and gentlemen, relax and love every minute of this. Gentlemen, the floor of yours.
Sirs, ma'ams, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Just following on for that, please don't relax too much. It is a bit stuffy. I know you've just had your dinner. Would rather you didn't fall asleep through the films. I'd like to start by actually saying thank you, firstly for inviting us here today to talk to you, but sincerely on not just behalf of the team, but for everybody in the Royal Air Force, all the boots on the ground, abroad and at home. Thank you for everything that you do. Everything from local support on stations, coffee mornings, play areas, to the storybook wings schemes, right up to things like the contact houses. Everything that you do makes a difference to life, day-to-day life in the Royal Air Force. So thank you, sincerely and genuinely, thank you very much. The presentation we're actually going to give you today is about 35 to 40 minutes long. I know a lot of you have seen it before, so please bear with it. I recognise a few faces in the audience. It's 35 to 40 minutes long. You'll be glad to know it's not just myself droning on. We've got Mr. Roddleson, who is far more eloquent than I am. We've got lots of good video and narration to go with it as well to explain what's going on. A little bit different today, unfortunately, we're not allowed to take any questions afterwards because of political purdah, in case we influence how anybody's going to vote. Not that we ever would, but I do apologise for that. I'm not just trying to duck out of any difficult questions. That's the direction we've got. So without further ado, we'll go for the first video, please. As the Royal Air Force presentation team, we travel around the UK talking to various groups of people about the roles, the responsibilities and the relevance of the Royal Air Force today. Now, we do this for a number of reasons. Firstly, it's to demonstrate that alongside the Royal Navy and the British Army, the Royal Air Force works as a defence asset on behalf of UK government to give our nation's leaders choices in times of crisis. Secondly, it's to show that as the UK's custodian of air power, the Royal Air Force relies on cutting-edge technology, aircraft and equipment. And finally, and most importantly, it's to show that our people are our greatest asset. So on that note, we'll just take a moment to introduce ourselves. I'm Flight Lieutenant Richard Smithson and I'm the head of the Royal Air Force presentation team. I joined the Air Force in 2004 as a direct entrant pilot and obviously went straight into training. I graduated that in 2007 and was posted to 18 Squadron RAF Odium as a Chinook pilot. I served there for 5 years, during which I took part in numerous exercises throughout the world, from up above the Arctic Circle down into Africa and many places in between. I've seen some amazing sights, done some amazing jobs, and most importantly, worked with some absolutely fantastic people. However, the highlight of that 5 years was 4 operational tours of Afghanistan, a fact of which I am extremely proud, and again, that's because of the people that I worked with. Following that, I was posted as a search and rescue pilot up to RAF Leconfield, which sadly no more exists, and where we provided search and rescue cover for the North Sea oil areas, the north of England and the Lake District. Following that, I was back to RAF Odium for 18 months, and now find myself here in this extremely privileged position, getting out to speak to members of the public like yourselves about the roles of the Royal Air Force. So that's me in a nutshell. I'll hand you over to my warrant officer, Mr. Roddleson.
Thanks, sir. Sirs, ma'ams, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Warrant Officer Andy Roddleson. I'm a personnel support tradesman and I joined the Royal Air Force 32 years ago, back in 1985. I'm actually a third generation warrant officer. My father was one, as was his father. So that takes my family's Royal Air Force lineage back to 1937, and that's something of which I'm incredibly proud. I've served across the United Kingdom, in Germany and Norway, but the highlight of my career was 3 years spent as the assistant to the Defence Attaché in the British Embassy, Copenhagen. So while my boss, the Defence Attaché, was busy doing the cocktail party circuit and eating far too many canapés than was good for him, I was maintaining the UK's bilateral defence relationship with the Danish Armed Forces. On operations, I've served in Iraq, Saudi Arabia, the Falkland Islands, and most recently in Afghanistan as the Chief Clerk to 904 Expeditionary Air Wing at Kandahar Air Base. I'd now like to introduce you to my colleague, SAC Tech, Chris Churchman.
Thanks, sir. Good morning, good afternoon, sirs, mums, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Senior Aircraftsman Christopher Churchman. I joined the Royal Air Force in 2012. By trade, I'm an ICT technician, so we look after the radios, radars, computer systems and satellite systems for the Royal Air Force. I've recently been posted into this privileged position on the RAF presentation team, where I provide IT support. Previous to this, I was on number 90 signals unit based at RAF Lehman in North Yorkshire. Whilst I was there, I was privileged to deploy across the world. I went to Malta, to Crete and to Afghanistan on operations, as well as numerous air exercises across the UK. In my short time in the Air Force so far, my highlight was 6.5 months in Afghanistan at the end of 2014, where we removed over 1,000 users worth of computer and telephone equipment from Kandahar Air Base, marking the end of 10 years continuous RAF presence there. Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Chris. As we approach the 100th anniversary of its formation in 1918, the Royal Air Force continues to protect our nation 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and maintain its peace and prosperity by deterring potential adversaries, protecting UK assets both at home and abroad, and by projecting the UK's power and influence around the world. With a worldwide reputation for delivering air power excellence based on past conflicts, the present Royal Air Force works alongside partner nations to try and build global stability, whilst continuing to invest in technology, in innovation, and in its people to meet any future challenge. This hard-won reputation is upheld by the Royal Air Force's greatest asset, its people. Together, our whole force, which comprises regular and reserve personnel, civil servants and contractors, forms a dedicated and cost-effective team which genuinely does deliver a world-renowned Air Force. In addition to this whole force, we have veterans organisations, service charities, local communities, families, university air squadrons and the Air Cadet organisation, or which form what we call the Royal Air Force family. And it is the unwavering support of this family and people like yourselves that allow us to do our job, to dedicate ourselves to our job and our country. Now, this presentation is going to cover a broad spectrum of what the Royal Air Force does, and we'll base that on what we call the 4 pillars of air power. These are control of the air mobility and lift, ISTAR, and attack. ISTAR standing for intelligence, surveillance, target acquisition, and reconnaissance. But before we tell you about those and the future of the Royal Air Force, I'd like to introduce the head of the Air Force, not in person, he's coming on in a moment, the Chief of the Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal, Sir Stephen Hillier.
It's a remarkable time for the Royal Air Force because we've rarely been busier in operations throughout our history. As I speak right now, over 15 operations across 4 continents worldwide. For the first time in generations, we're planning to grow our front line. We're going to have more combat air, more air transport, more ISTAR capabilities to ensure that we can continue to deliver all operations. We have world-class equipment, which is flown, maintained and supported by world-class people. And I think it's vital that as the person who leads the Air Force, I remain visible, engaged and fully connected with the whole force of people in the Royal Air Force to the very best of my ability.
The principal duty of the Royal Air Force is to defend the nation's airspace. In protecting the skies above the UK, the Royal Air Force is exercising the first responsibility of any government, defence of the nation. Royal Air Force personnel protect our skies with courage, with determination and with resolve. Now, threats to UK airspace can come from various areas, such as foreign military aircraft, as you see quite often on the news, to airliners under terrorist control, to something as simple as a light aircraft who simply got airborne and not turned his radio on. Whatever the threat may be, we have our Typhoon fighter jet aircraft on what we call quick reaction alert, who are there 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and are supported by our Voyager air-to-air refuelling aircraft and some of the most advanced radar equipment in the world, and they will guarantee the safety and security of our skies. Now, should the worst come to the worst, and offensive action is required, these aircraft are always armed with advanced short and medium-range air-to-air missiles. And in the future, they're going to be armed with what you can see in the corner of the screen there, the Meteor missile. This is a revolutionary missile, European developed, and will offer some of the greatest advances in missile technology we've seen in a long time, such as a ramjet engine, which will allow the missile to fly further and faster than any other any other missile out there, and give our pilots the cutting edge in any future aerial combat.
One of the main roles of defence is to protect the United Kingdom and its territories, and the Royal Air Force's contribution to that is protecting the skies. We maintain control of the air 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We work alongside our partner nations in Europe, and within British airspace there's close coordination between the civilian air traffic control agencies and the military air traffic control agencies. And if we see activity that may appear suspicious, it could be an airliner not following its flight plan, maybe not communicating correctly, or maybe an aircraft that's coming into airspace without permission, we have the ability to launch fighter aircraft to go and investigate what's going on. We call that quick reaction alert. We use a graduated response. Firstly, we try and achieve radar contact, then we'll try and achieve radio contact, and then we'll try and achieve visual contact to make sure we take every chance of contacting the aircraft and working out why it's not behaving the way we wish it to. We are given very clear rules of engagement as when we can and cannot intercept aircraft. The ultimate decisions are taken by the higher levels of government. The Typhoon's suitable for the QRA role because it's quick, it can be launched at a few minutes' notice, it's armed with modern weapons, And the communication systems mean it can talk to the people on the ground and also other aircraft in the air which might be conducting the same activity.
It has to take us no more than 10 minutes from getting the call to getting the wheels off the ground. Sometimes we'll be given intelligence before we're airborne as to the nature of the scramble. However, a lot of the time we'll be getting airborne and we'll be briefed when we're in the air.
They have absolute priority over everything that happens on the airfield. We provide the initial control service to them before we then hand them over to Swanwick military, who take them into their operating area and hand them to the fighter controllers.
Civilians and military supervisors work really closely together during a scramble, and the civilians will essentially try and clear the airspace around and ahead of the potential threat aircraft so that that aircraft, once met by the typhoons, can be escorted without any other aircraft in the way of it. You have to be able to remain calm under pressure. The airspace is so dynamic, things change all the time.
If the fighters need to stay airborne longer than their normal sortie length, we can refuel them in the air using the Voyager aircraft to double or sometimes triple the length of time the Typhoons can be in the air. For operations where you don't have control of the air and an adversary may bring aircraft in, that could threaten the aircraft you've got in the airspace or the people you've got on the ground. So we try and achieve control of the air to make sure we're protecting the assets we've got flying around and the people operating underneath us. For the future, control of the air is going to continue to be a central function of the Royal Air Force's air power. The Meteor missile is an advanced missile which will have greater technology than the current suite of missiles. It's going to have a longer range, which means we can intercept aircraft earlier, but of course also means we're protecting our crews because they don't have to go as close to the enemy aircraft.
In a world challenged by political instability and natural disasters, the RAF's air mobility fleet of transport aircraft and helicopters gives the UK the ability to respond rapidly to any crises worldwide. Our modern Voyager, C-17 and A400M Atlas aircraft give us strategic reach across the globe, while the BAE 146 and Hercules operate across shorter distances. The A400M Atlas aircraft embodies technological innovation in its flight deck design, which reduces crew workload, and its 4 turboprop engines, which consume 20% less fuel per mission than similar engines. The RAF's forward-thinking approach to aeromedical evacuation is demonstrated through the Air Transportable Isolation Unit. This is a joint venture between the MOD and Department of Health, which allows RAF medical personnel to transport highly infectious patients by air. The RAF's modernised helicopter fleet provides battlefield mobility for the UK's armed forces. The Chinook, the latest variant of which has advanced avionics and an updated cockpit, provides heavy lift up to 10 tonnes, while the Puma's powerful new engines give it a major increase in performance, allowing it to deliver troops and humanitarian aid in harsh environments where required. Importantly, the RAF also makes a vital contribution to homeland resilience. With floods often inundating parts of the UK, the RAF regularly mobilises personnel and helicopters to assist the local authorities and emergency services to protect life and property and prevent any further damage or distress.
Air mobility is important because it gives our government choice in times of crisis. We can move people and equipment over long distances very quickly and at very short notice and deliver them straight to the point of need, be that on operations or in support of humanitarian or disaster relief efforts. Air mobility is essentially a force multiplier. It's not just about moving people and equipment, it's also about the ability to air-to-air refuel our aircraft. And we also work very closely with those in the aeromedical role to be able to provide a rapid aeromedical response. Strategic airlift is using the air mobility aircraft that we have to move a large amount of people and equipment over substantial distances, but tending to be operating into what we would define as well-found airfields, so long runways, concrete airstrips, passenger terminals. We then move into the tactical domain. That's the aircraft that are capable of flying in the threat environment, delivering people and equipment straight to the point of need. So being able to operate at low level above the ground, landing on rough and unprepared strips, and also not just delivering people and equipment by landing aircraft in those places, but also doing it whilst we're airborne. So opening the ramp and doors at the back of the aircraft to deliver people and equipment by parachute.
The C-17 has been involved in operations around the world. It's a fantastic aircraft for taking aid from the UK out to disaster-stricken areas. So it would be taking a lot of load into one main operating base for them to then disseminate further.
I'm a reserve logistics mover. We load and fly with the aircraft and unload at our destination. We can load baggage, vehicles, helicopters, so a real variety.
We will always maintain a high readiness state on the engineering side to keep those aircraft ready to deploy 24/7.
Voyager gives the Royal Air Force a unique capability, providing both air transport and air-to-air refuelling. I'm 23 years old myself. I've just come through approximately 4.5 years in training and I'm now operating the biggest Royal Air Force aircraft ever, and it's a rewarding challenge.
I'll be working on the C-130 Hercules aircraft. The first 10 weeks of load master training is all about the job you'll be doing on the ground. The second half is your flying training, and this is where you learn about airmanship qualities and more about the running of the actual aircraft and the aircraft systems.
The Chinook is a very capable platform. Its load lifting capability is enormous compared to other aircraft types. It's incredibly resilient, very, very reliable in the field.
We do everything from moving troops around to putting vehicles underneath the aircraft, and we'll do medical evacuation as well.
It's a pretty varied job. You could find yourself doing flood relief or abroad in operations anywhere in the world.
The Puma Mark II is a medium lift support helicopter, so primarily we'll be moving people around or freight either in the cabin or underslung in a net. It's very good in the urban operations side of life, being fairly small in comparison to the Chinook.
When A400M Atlas comes fully into service, it will offer incredible technology and some real advantages as we look to the future. And it will complement the roles that the C-130 performs in terms of tactical airlift. Where Atlas brings significant advantage is it can fly for a lot further, it can fly at faster speeds, it can fly higher, and also in terms of the amount of weight that we can put into the aircraft. So it's really this notion that with A400M Atlas, we should be looking to carry loads that can't necessarily be put on a C-130 into places that our C-17 can't necessarily go. We've been working with our industry partners, Airbus Defence and Space and Flybe Aviation Services, to make sure that we've got a structure here to support the aircraft from a maintenance perspective. With 22 aircraft in total coming, A400M Atlas will form the backbone of the RAF's Air Mobility Force.
All military activity requires an understanding of the environment that we are operating in. Through their sophisticated sensors, RAF intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance aircraft provide information and situational awareness to naval, air and ground forces. This capability combines advanced technology with the essential expertise of our people and gives political, military and humanitarian decision makers the information they need to plan and to act. RAF Rivet Joint, Sentry and Sentinel aircraft sense and interpret data from a wide spectrum of sources, allowing a recognisable air, land and maritime picture of an area of operations to be compiled. This picture can be enhanced by airborne imagery taken by RAF Typhoon and Tornado aircraft, giving British and Allied forces the information they need to complete their mission safely. RAF airborne intelligence gathering is also routinely performed by Reaper remotely piloted aircraft, which always operate under the control of a qualified crew. When undertaking arm reconnaissance, the Reaper can loiter over a target area for extended periods of time, producing a detailed reconnaissance picture. However, when strike action is required, crews always operate within legally bound and strictly enforced rules of engagement in accordance with UK and international law. RAF surveillance activity also extends into space. The 24-hour watch maintained by the Space Operations Coordination Centre at RAF High Wycombe and our advanced radar at RAF Fylingdales is a key part of the layered defence of the United Kingdom, providing a ballistic missile early warning capability and monitoring for space-based threats such as satellites colliding.
ISTAR, it is intelligence, it's the situation awareness and surveillance, it's the target acquisition, and it's reconnaissance. It's the eyes and the ears so that we can deliver as much information as possible to enable commanders to make those difficult decisions, be that in the tactical environment, the operational environment, or indeed in the strategic environment. And in the operational world, we can never know enough about what's happening on the battlefield. The product which comes out of all of the ISTAR platforms is shared with all of our coalition partners, so we can all make those difficult decisions just a little bit easier. If you look at the role of our Royal Air Force Regiment in their force protection, protecting the ground that we fly over around airfields, they will need to know what's going on in that picture. They will be linked into what we are providing, so that as they round the next corner, they know what's there before they make those dangerous steps. We are looking after them as much as they're looking after us. The real beauty about the ISTAR force is its applicability, not just in combat zones. Of course, that's what we've ultimately procured the equipment for, and that's where we centralise a lot of our training. But the reality is, it's got broad application around the globe. The recent floods that we had in Cumbria, ISTAR was front and centre to go out there and survey the ground and look what's going on. So one of the beauties about ISTAR is it's got just as many applications in the peacetime in response to civil crisis as it has in the wartime.
The E3D radar gives you a picture of aircraft in several hundred miles of airspace. We can feed that information to a variety of other users. The purpose of the information is to give everyone the same air picture, to make sure their situational awareness is the same.
Our Sentinel aircraft is very good for wide area surveillance, using both its synthetic aperture radar, but also its ground moving target indicator.
A Reaper is a remotely piloted aircraft. It gathers a lot of information through a variety of sensors. There is trained aircrew controlling it, operating it, flying it. Being on the ground here allows us to add in more awareness through other systems that aid our decision-making in theatre.
The rivet joint, in effect, listens to what's going on in all sorts of different domains. It's a passive sensor. That in itself is very powerful when layered with all the other types of sensors that we have.
When we look at the ISTAR force, without the people that support the platforms, the capability would be nothing. The people that get into that aircraft, they are just the tip of the spear. It's the analysts that sit on the ground, miles away, that are the unsung heroes.
I'm currently an imagery analyst in the RAF Reserves. We analyse images that are gained from aircraft. We look to see what's going on in that imagery, write reports about it, so that then we can pass that information on to other people. It makes me proud that what I get to do maybe doesn't get seen by a lot of people, but we know that what we do helps not just people in the RAF, but people in the other forces as well.
And then behind all the analysts sits all of the support staff, be it technicians, suppliers, caterers, medics, all of which keep the heart beating of the ISTAR force. The ISTAR enterprise is growing. It is going to continue to dominate the battle space. P8 Poseidon is on the horizon. We have Protector, a replacement for the Reaper unmanned air vehicle. And then we will see possibly a tripling of the amount of people within that force. So the ISTAR force is in growth, and it's a sustained growth well into the next decade.
The RAF's ultimate combat capability is the ability to participate in the most complex warfighting scenarios in support of UK national and overseas interests. RAF attack aircraft are capable of performing complex long-range missions involving airborne refuelling, overcoming enemy air defences on their way to destroying targets, and protecting themselves when returning through hostile airspace. The RAF's current fast jet attack aircraft, Typhoon and Tornado, provide a flexible force capable of undertaking a wide spectrum of missions from reconnaissance through to delivering precision-guided weapons. The Tornado remains a highly capable attack aircraft, while the Typhoon's capabilities are continually improved through an ongoing series of enhancements. The weapons used by our attack aircraft are state-of-the-art and supported by British industry. Specifically engineered to minimise collateral damage, the laser-guided Paveway 4 gives the RAF a precision bombing capability, while the world-class British-designed Brimstone missile allows our aircraft to hit fast-moving targets. The Storm Shadow standoff attack missile allows us to hit targets at long range and is among the most advanced of its kind in the world.
The attack role has always been significant for the Royal Air Force. It provides the commanders on the ground with a capability of delivering a precision strike. It's a great tool for the government to use, initially hopefully as a deterrent. The enemy is now very aware of the capabilities that the Royal Air Force can bring to the fight, and therefore often just the presence of having an aircraft in the area or in the overhead is enough without actually having to deliver any weapons at that time. We follow a 5 pillars principle. Rules of engagement determine the types of targets that we are allowed by UK law to target, so the crews will know the types of targets they're allowed to attack. They will then confirm that they have positive identification and that the target they are being asked to strike is the one that the crews are actually looking at for their targeting pod. We look for pattern of life, so we look to see that we have proportionality. We'll also ensure that we have target engagement authority for us to be able to carry out the strike itself. And the final element is the collateral damage, and they'll be looking to see that the weapons that they have been asked to employ will only affect the targets they've been asked to. And if at any time any of those pillars are removed, then clearly an attack will not take place. Tornado GF4 is a multi-role aircraft that carries out both air-to-surface strikes and also tactical reconnaissance. And the weapons that we carry now are cutting edge. Brimstone is a unique weapon that the Royal Air Force brings. It's a low collateral weapon which enables it to provide the ability to target without inflicting destruction and devastation to the surrounding area. And it's also very, very good against mobile targets.
My job is a weapons system officer in the back of the Tornado, and so on operational deployment, myself and the pilot will get airborne to help out the guys on the ground, and should the need arise, we can always employ a weapon. Doing this job is extremely exciting. It's very challenging and it changes every single day, so it keeps us on our toes. The most rewarding part of the job is knowing that the guys on the ground are a bit safer having had us in the air.
The F-35 Lightning is a 5th generation stealth combat aircraft. Unlike our previous combat aircraft, the Lightning will be able to do many different roles. So everything from the air-to-air fighter role that is typical of a fast jet, to strike and attack roles, right through to intelligence gathering. It can do multiple missions all at the same time. From a technological point of view, Lightning is pushing the phase.
The young men and women currently undergoing military and professional training in the Royal Air Force will form the backbone of our service well into the 21st century. Following initial training, Royal Air Force through career education offers a spectrum of qualifications from modern apprenticeships right up to PhDs and equips our personnel for the challenges that the modern world and advancing technology will bring. This emphasis on training and education is also mirrored by the Royal Air Force sponsored Air Cadet organisation. Air Cadet membership fosters an interest in aviation, it fosters leadership skills, and most importantly, it fosters a spirit of good citizenship amongst the youth of today. Currently celebrating the 75th anniversary, The Air Cadet organisation is also a leading advocate of STEM, promoting science, technology, engineering and mathematics, all of which are essential in maintaining UK competitiveness in a globalised economy. Advanced technology and this development in our human capability will ensure the Royal Air Force's pre-eminence in the air power domain as we introduce this aircraft into service over the next decade, the F-35B Lightning. It will be operated on a joint basis with the Royal Navy from both land bases and the new Queen Elizabeth-class aircraft carrier when that comes into service, and will offer UK Defence an enhanced expeditionary air combat capability well into the 2030s and hopefully well beyond. Plus, with 15% of each aircraft physically manufactured in the UK, it guarantees British jobs and it guarantees British income. Now, as I'm sure many of you are aware, it's not just us in the United States who are developing the F-35B. There's actually 9 partner nations involved in the development of the aircraft, meaning it's an excellent example of defence engagement. Through defence diplomacy, training and industrial collaborations worldwide, defence engagement expands the UK's influence around the world and strengthens global relationships.
We need to make sure that we can grow our frontline capabilities, but it's not going to be easy. Essentially, we're going to have to grow that capability whilst keeping the same number of people. So that requires us to be imaginative and innovative in how we approach that challenge. We're going to have to be agile and adaptable. The essential ingredient is our people. We have a highly talented, motivated and capable workforce. They're the people who actually deliver air power. And my job is to ensure that I lead those people to the very best of my ability and allow them to do the job which they do extremely well. The Air Cadets and the University Air Squadron is just a vital part of the Royal Air Force. That experience of leadership, that experience of teamwork, those essential qualities that they impart, that respect and integrity and service and excellence, those are vital qualities for any walk of life, and they're certainly ones that we embrace as part of the Royal Air Force.
The Royal Air Force of today really invests in our people in terms of training. This is really exciting times. We've got really great capabilities coming on board with modern aircraft. So getting people energised is easy, and the training we give them very much focuses on them and inspires them to hit our high standards.
Technology is massive, especially with the new aircraft that are coming through. The job is more IT savvy.
The good news is our younger generation are digital natives. They really get this technology, and the way we're moving is towards touchscreens, pilot-mounted displays and fusing information.
Synthetic training is a way for us to achieve all the training we need to achieve without putting the aircraft or ourselves in danger.
This is the SEPT, the Synthetic Environment Procedural Trainer, and this is where we teach the students how to marshal aircraft. I think modern students, they're used to this kind of thing, they can relate to it, they do enjoy it, they do take a lot from it, and I think it's a fabulous training resource.
We work in partnership with industry to make sure that our techniques and specifically our equipment is up to date.
The RAF and ourselves work very closely together. We supply and maintain simulators for the RAF, for Chinook and a Puma. We can achieve a lot more training for a lot less cost than can be achieved by simply flying the real aircraft. It's a constantly evolving programme. Part of my role is actually to keep abreast of the changes to the real aircraft and to make sure that we actually bring the simulators to that same state.
STEM is science, technology, engineering and mathematics, and it's a national drive to get people interested at a very early age in subjects that will lead to full engineering careers. We want to attract our very brightest and best young women and men, and the way we do that is by showing them that they can get responsibility early, and that when they come here they can apply the maths and the physics that they learn in school in the real world to deliver effect on operations where it matters.
I'm training to be an information communication technology technician. I wanted a job that would challenge me intellectually and also a job that would involve new technologies. I'll be here at RAF Cosford for 12 months, starting with maths, electronic fundamentals and maintenance practices. I'll then go more deeply into the job role. So I'll be doing servers, networking, IT essentials and cyber.
Well, I'm immensely proud and privileged to be in command of the Royal Air Force. I have three ambitions. The first is to lead the Royal Air Force to the very best of my ability and ensure that we can continue to sustain what we do in operations at the moment. The second challenge is to make sure that we can grow the Air Force's capabilities for the first time in generations. And thirdly, and most importantly, is to ensure that we can recruit, train, sustain and retain the people that we need for the Royal Air Force and to give this great nation the air power that it needs.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Royal Air Force is a world-class air force. It is manned by professional, dedicated, highly trained personnel working with cutting-edge, advanced technology. The capabilities of the Royal Air Force give the UK government a range of options when responding to or attempting to prevent crises worldwide. Furthermore, in an uncertain world, the quality of our personnel and the quality of our equipment underwrites homeland resilience, regional stability and global security, and ensures that the Royal Air Force can look forward to its next 100 years with confidence. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our presentation complete. I won't finish with an apology, so penultimately, I will apologise for not being able to field questions again. We really do enjoy that because it puts us kind of on the spot. So I will finish by saying, as I began with, thank you very much for everything that you do. It really does make a difference to the people on the ground. Thank you.